10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to Dax Chats. I'm your host, DJ Dax, and in this episode, I'm speaking to a young man who I've always thought of as the baby face of country music. However, he is phenomenal. He has produced 3 of his own albums. His debut album had tracks like Roadworks, also Hands Are Clean, and Staring Out the Back of a Car. His second album was called Welcome to My Heart, and the title track was Welcome to My Heart, which was fantastic also. And he's just bringing out this Friday, he's bringing out a brand new album called 3 Minute Movies. We're going to talk about that. He's had 3 singles off it already, and the latest one is called The New Old Me, which features the great Steve Earle. Of course, today I'm talking about Angus Gill, and today Dax Chats to Angus Gill. How are you, brother?
Doing pretty good, thanks, mate. How about you?
I'm doing as well as we can in the world that we currently live in. I mean, that's the hardest thing of dealing with this is turning everything around and making it still plausible in today's society. How have you gone through this whole pandemic?
Well, look, it's been interesting because I was meant to be in Nashville right now because I was planning to move over in June. I was booked to play the CMA Fest, and when Rona hit around March, I thought, this is not looking promising. So the CMA Fest was cancelled shortly after, and so was everything else under the sun. And it was a tough time for us musicians, but there was a point where I thought, look, I can't keep wallowing around in my sorrows. I have to use, kind of turn this challenge into an opportunity. And that's what I've done since I've been using this time so creatively. I've got several production projects that I'm producing for myself and for other people. I've been writing a lot for my own projects and other people's projects. And so my creative output has been really good this year because it's just given me the chance to tackle those things that would normally be prolonged if I was on tour right now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you are a multi-instrumentalist, a producer, a comedian, a songwriter. How much further can you go with creative outlet?
I do not know, but I'm a terrible soccer player. I cannot play netball to save myself. And so, you've got to do what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Now, the new album, which comes out on Friday, is called 3 Minute Movies, and it features Paul Kelly's band and yourself, correct?
That's it, yes. I recorded that album back in December of 2018 because I had 2 files of songs that I had written. This is Lucy, by the way.
Hi, Lucy.
I had 2 piles of songs which I'd written, one which formed Welcome to My Heart, and one kind of anonymous pile. And I was like, what am I going to do with these songs? And I started playing them out to kind of gauge what the audience reaction was like, because that's what I always do. When I have some new songs that I'm confident in myself, I really like to let the audience be the judge, because you soon find out if a song's working, and you soon find out which are the ones, because it's hard to narrow down because I write so many songs, and I have a pretty good idea of the ones which I know are going to go across, but you can never be too sure. So it's great to try them out on the audience, and you know the ones that you need to put on the album, or the ones that become singles are the ones that people say, oh, do you have that on a CD? Can I get that one? Where do you have that one? Oh, do you have any merch for that? So no, this, it's not out yet. So they're the ones on an album. And so I had this pop songs, and I was like, gee, what am I going to do with that? And I think I played the Mildura Country Music Festival in, it would have been Yeah, it would have been 2018, and I was driving home from Mildura, and I was listening to Paul Kelly's Life is Fine album, and I'd met PK and the band previously through Steve Earle, because we were together in 2017. And so I met the guys in the band, and I thought it'd be cool if I got together with the Paul Kelly band and recorded an album of material that was a bit more kind of folk rock Americana, focused. And so I reached out to Dan Kelly, Paul's nephew, and brilliant artist and songwriter in his own right, and guitar player, amazing out-of-the-box guitar player. I just love his work. So I reached out to him, and then he kind of hooked me up with all the other guys in the band, and we got together in December of 2018 and made this record. And it was so different to anything else I've been a part of or that I've produced, because we recorded it in an analog studio. There was no studio trickery. There was very minimal overdubs and comping. We did it without a click track, which is pretty much in the country world, we don't, often not, track without a click track. Everything's all done to the grid, and it's a bit more of a slicker form of or style of production.
I think I like that. I mean, when you think about that bass, back when I was doing my first lot of recordings in 1997, we didn't have the click track either, and we had the real band, and it just felt warmer. It felt more real. When you put it down, it actually sounded, it wasn't so. That's it. It wasn't in a box. It had warmth to it.
And there was no auto-tune or Melodyne or anything like that back in the day either. Like, they still had their own box of tricks to use with work which wasn't perhaps up to scratch. They used to they could actually tune things manually with a Ventide. I think it was a piece of it was a harmonizer thing, and they had their own tricks back in the day too. But I think we get so reliant on quantizing everything, and this world, everything is so perfect in this modern world, and everything's so perfect and polished and radio ready and slick and overproduced. And I thought, I just want to get rid of all of that and do it how they would have did it in the 70s, and make a really authentic, organic, all the band in the same room at the same time album. And so that was really cool. And it was great working with the PK band as well, because they had such a wide range of influences, which we kind of referenced in a few songs there. Peter Luscombe, the drummer, had some great ideas for references in his head, and Ashley Naylor, the guitar player, and he's another great artist in his own right. He was out of a band called Even, and so he was heavily influenced by the Beatles, and so we had a song called Hey Underdog, where he played the guitar solo through a Leslie speaker, which was a classic Beatles thing. And there was just really cool kind of sonic elements to the album that had come from hanging out with the band and getting to know their influences, and that was what was so cool about working with that. And I think as a producer and as an artist, you've always got to be very open-minded when you step into the studio. You need to be like, you shouldn't ever have a set idea of exactly how you want something to sound in your head. You should know where you're heading. You should have those, kind of like a storyboard almost.
Yeah. But the ability to change, right? Yep.
Of how you want the song to be. But you need to be open, and you need to allow yourself to pick up on things that happen in the room. And I think what the coolest part about it was, for me, was seeing that discovery phase of when band first started playing through the songs and what just naturally came out, because it's really that was really interesting, because I'd go keep doing that, keep whatever you're doing there, don't stop that, because there was just some cool things when they heard the song, when they were reading the chart for the first time, that just needed to be captured. And so we only chose whole takes. Like, we ran the song maybe 3 times, and by usually the second or third take was the best, and we just used the whole, it felt good, and then we moved on to the next song, and so
Absolutely. That's
really,
great. That's great.
really cool.
Now you do have you've already thrown out 3 singles off the album. The first one being the title track, 3 Minute Movie. The second one being Hey Underdog, and the new one being a duet with the great Steve Earle called which is an outlaw country song. I love it. It's fantastic, and it is this week's DJ Dax hit pick on the Country Thunder Network. It's called The New Old Me, and for me, it shows your maturity. You know, and as you say on your bio, you know, it's people have referenced you as an old soul, and this actually comes through in that track. You've gone from, you know, roadworks through to this, you know, outlaw country with a new attitude, and it's just a brilliant song.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate that, and I am a baby face, as you said before, and so I think people don't realise a lot, because I put out my first EP when I was 14, and I've been around and I've been working hard and doing what I do for about 20 years now, and so, you know, some people who have only just discovered me or something go, you know, this little upstart of a kid is coming through, but I really have been on such a journey so far that perhaps some people have missed. And I think too that because I'm so hands on deck with everything, I really do go from, you know, obviously the production side to writing my own press releases, doing a lot of publicity work, you know, management, all sorts of different things, because I've had to learn how to be self-sufficient and to be able to do a lot of things myself. And I suppose being an independent artist has taught me a lot of that over the years. And you can't just, you know, rely on having your pixies do things for you. So, you know,
Correct.
That's definitely hardened me and matured me, because I haven't had someone do that for me. I've had obviously lots of support that I'm grateful for, and Steve Earle's been one who's been in my corner for a long time. We've known each other for maybe 5 or 6 years, and he's always been a great support, and we often catch up when, you know, he's over here and when I go over to the States and so forth. But yeah, I have learned to toughen up and, you know, build a second skin and grow a second skin and so forth, like the song talks about. And Steve too has been through, you know, he's lived the rock and roll lifestyle for sure. So I think, like, I wrote that song with Alan Caswell about.
I know. I found that very interesting. I'm like, here is Steve Earle and yourself singing this outlaw rock song. You know, it's like alt country outlaw rock song, and it was written by yourself and Alan Caswell. I'm like, wow, this is just a weird fit, but it all works.
Because Alan's a really good friend of mine, and so we were catching up. Actually, it was only a month before we tracked this album, and I had this. I think it was the last song I wrote for the album, and I kind of thought, oh, geez, I'd really like an outlaw country song I could do with Steve Earle, and I had this title, "The New Old Me," and I thought that's just a cool title, and I started kind of forming an idea for the song. And I was hanging out with Alan when he lived in the Blue Mountains, and we were just sitting out on his veranda drinking plonk, as I think we were on the white wine or the sparkling or something. And I said, oh, I've got this title called The New Old Me, and I kind of started playing this outlaw country groove. And so we wrote this, just poured out, you know, it was very easy to write because it was, you know, it was the truth. And so, you know, it was great because we kind of thought, I said to Kaz, I said, it'd be really good to write a song that I could do as a duet with Steve Earle. And he said, his face just lit up, and he's like, because, you know, Steve Earle's one of his heroes too. And so, so he was really just, you know, channeling, he was just, hell bent on the idea, and he was sold. And so we sat down and really kind of it just come out, as I said. And then I sent, after the track was all finished, I sent that through to Steve, and thankfully he loved it and put his part down just in time for my deadline for this album.
I I have a hard question. Obviously Steve's son passed away just recently. How was it for you to release this track as a single, knowing the grief that Steve's going through right now?
Well, obviously terrible, because I spoke to Steve. Actually, he put this part down about 4 days before Justin passed away, and I've been in touch with him, messaging him, and it was totally unexpected, and Justin had quite a few struggles that he was obviously trying to overcome, but it was just tragic to hear. So at the same time, obviously, when you have to be very sensitive to that when you're planning something, and so we really gave it a couple of weeks too, but we did still want to stick to the same album timeline that we had planned out too. So that was kind of tricky, because we definitely don't want to be seen to be counterintuitive to the grieving and everything that's happening right now, because I didn't obviously I didn't know Justin Townsend, but I loved his music. I've been friends with Steve for a while, but I've never had the chance to meet Justin. And so, just what a terrible loss to the industry,
Absolutely.
to the world. Yeah,
absolutely. I really feel for Steve at this time, and the rest of the family. It's a strange situation, but getting back to you, 3-minute movie. Now, you described this as and because you've called it 3-minute movie, you described a movie as something that had a start, a middle, and an end. And so you've tried to encapsulate that with each of these tracks.
Yeah, that's pretty true, because I didn't plan it that way, but I suppose I'm a very visual songwriter. I love stories. I'm very narrative and character driven. And so I kind of, after we tracked all of the songs for the album, I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. I like the title 3-minute movies, because obviously there's the song 3-minute movie, but I thought I liked the title of calling the album 3-minute movies, because essentially they're all 3-minute songs, and they're movies. They're very visual. And so that's really how the naming of the album come about. I didn't realize it at the time, but all of the songs had this real, visual kind of. They've been written very, very visually. Lots of images in the lyric, because that's, first and foremost, I'm 85% a lyricist, and the remaining is just kind of. I like to write on my own, and I like to write with other people because of the musical influences that they bring to the table too. So generally in a write, I'm always the lyrics guy, and so I do like taking those corner of the eye details that we kind of pick up. We take in, but we don't pay too much thought about. But those really small, I heard Laurie McKenna describe this. She said she likes to kind of show the room that the character's in, and the tiny little details in the room, and then let the listener fill in the blanks and put their own story in there. And I thought that was a great way of describing it. And she's one of my favorite writers because of the details the great details that she chooses in her lyric and her character and narrative based songs. And so I suppose that's how the whole 3-minute movies thing came into form
about. Yep. So my next question is, now I know it's very difficult to do any visual aspect right now because of the pandemic that's around, but was it your intention with the songs to build a pretty much a 3-minute movie out of these songs and tell the story visually as well?
Not really, actually. I was not planning to do too many music videos for this, for singles off this album anyway.
Mm,
Uh, I wanted to stay true to the original concept that
mm,
this. I wanted to make an album as if it was made in the 70s,
mm,
and so music videos, of course, were around during that era, but I didn't intend so much, on doing music videos. I didn't intend this to be a commercial album, but
mm,
I wanted it to reach out to obviously my current audience, but draw in people that perhaps haven't heard of me, and that
mm,
like what Kelly does, or what Steve Earle does, or what Jackson Brown does, and kind of
mm.
target that blues and root kind of, pardon me, folk rock kind of
Mm.
crowd. Bob
Not to
Dylan.
forget, not to forget Diesel. You can't forget Mark Lassot.
So him and I wrote a song on the album, and he played so many instruments on it. I sent him the bed track that we did with the PK band. Lucy's just behind here scraping away. I don't know what she's doing. And so I sent him that, and he put some amazing parts down. I love Diesel's work, but yeah, he's another one that I love what he does. I love his new album as well. I've just been Sunset Suburbia. I've just been listening to that on repeat. So yeah, that's a cracker.
Wow, cool. Well, it's an amazing ride, and you've gone through an amazing journey. You've touched on in your albums you touch on deep rooted injustices. You talk about the downtrodden. You do fun songs like Roadworks in the original one. That's still a fan favorite, obviously. Um, and you've just continued to grow. And I think this new album, I've heard the first three tracks already, and it's just an awesome it's an awesome lead into what the album's going to be. So I'm really looking forward to Friday, where I can actually sit down and hear the whole album.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm very excited to have this out, and I'm excited. I think to just keep exploring the space in which I occupy too, because another reason why I wanted to make this album that was, it's very different to what I've done stylistically in the past.
Correct.
So I wanted to do this because I like taking risks, and I like exploring the space in which I occupy, and not becoming too pigeonholed or too set in one
Mm,
thing, trying to recreate the last album that I did, because
mm,
people that I look up to, like Bob Dylan and Steve Earle and Bruce Springsteen and Paul Kelly,
mm,
I actually, they are always developing and
mm.
and experimenting with different projects, and PK's had so many different groups. He's
Yeah.
done bluegrass albums, he's done more experimental things. He did a brilliant Shakespeare EP of Shakespeare sonnets put to music. He's
Mm,
had poetry put to music, kind of folk
mm.
rock albums, and then he's done more pop based albums, and so that
Yep.
really is like, I really love that about PK. And Steve's the same thing. He's done a bluegrass album with the Mountain, his Del McCoury band, and Celtic albums, rock albums, blues album. um,
Mm.
I asked Steve, I said, how come, you've got all these different albums in different genres? And he gave the best answer. He said, I just get bored. And I'm like, that is so good.
I just think, where that's concerned, like me since 1997, I've been a country songwriter, country artist. But yeah, I do explore. I wrote a song back in 2013, and we put a when I started writing it, I had the idea of it being a slow ballady country song, and I took it to a mate of mine who's a guitarist, and it ended up being a sort of punk rock driven song, and it was completely different to what I'd imagined it, why put yourself in a box and say I'm this style of artist when you have the world to experiment with music. You look at what Keith Urban's done, in the space of his genre of country music. He's excelled past, to be something that's genreless. If you've heard his new album, it's just all over the place. You just don't know. I think Tumbleweed's about the closest song you're going to get to country music in that.
Right. Yeah, I haven't heard it yet. I'm kind of, I like some of his new stuff, and then some of it's a bit, more poppy for me personally. I'm not.
Yeah.
But I think I really applaud the fact that he's exploring, as an artist constantly. He's always trying to push the boundaries. He's taking risks, not playing it safe. I get over kind of the safeness of that some people feel they need to be. They need to recreate the same album over and over and over again. I really love the fact, even if you don't particularly like the style of music, I think you can appreciate the fact that the artist is trying to better themselves and explore new ground and take themselves to a new kind of life. Yeah,
and pushing boundaries. That's fantastic. I mean, that's exactly what we should be doing. We should always be pushing forward and pushing boundaries. Like the last 2 songs I've written are pretty much unlike anything I've done before, and I'd be interested to see where they go if they go into production. So far it's just me on an acoustic guitar and the lyrics, but it'll be interesting because I think lyrically speaking and even melody speaking, they're completely different to what I've done before. And I'm starting to, as you get older, you start pushing different boundaries and you start going, well, I don't want to go back to where I was. I want to try something different, and that's where I'm at.
And at the end of the day, it's all for the love of music.
That's right.
I've never been concerned about genre, and saying, oh well, this is country and this is not country. There's good music and there's bad music. They're the only genres, in my opinion.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, your new album does come out on Friday. Now, people can obviously go to your website, which is angusgill.com.au, and they can order it now on the website, and you will actually sign it and send it to them. Yes,
I'm doing a lot. Hey, so if you're getting,
I did see that post. You were doing it today. Now, this interview comes out on Wednesday, so they'll only have 2 days.
Better late than never.
That's it. And the new single from the album is, of course, called "The New Old Me," and it features the great Steve Earle. Angus, thank you very much for your time today. It's been wonderful chatting to you, and I wish you all the success with this album, because from what I've heard of it already, it is phenomenal, and I can't wait to hear the rest.
Thanks for having me, Dax. I appreciate it, mate, and great to catch up again.
No worries, anytime. I'm sure we'll be talking again when your new singles come out or when your new projects come out.
I've got plenty of new projects in the arsenal, so plenty of new songs. So they'll be out.
Are you going to do it? Are you going to do a country? Are you going to do a comedy album? That's what I want to know.
Actually, I've actually already got a comedy album, which is almost half done. It's
all right,
but it's not under Angus Gill. It's actually an album that I wrote with a whole heap of Aussie comedians like Husey and Limo and Gretel Colleen, all of these amazing comedians, Akmal Sali, and so that'll be out actually next year. That is a thing. It's not
cool.
Yeah, you're pretty spot on with that.
I'm looking forward to that too. All right, well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Angus Gill. His brand new album is out this Friday, the 25th of September. It is called 3 Minute Movies. And his brand new single is, of course, The New Old Me featuring Steve Earle. And that is playing on the Country Thunder Network right now, and you can vote for it in the Country Thunder 20. Just go to our website, countrythunder.com.au, and the voting form is at the top of the page. And if you choose to request it, you can request it straight from the player. Until next time, this is DJ Dax for Dax Chats, proudly presented by Neon Horse in Stanhope, Victoria. Bye for now.